All right, hi, Richard Moore here from 8-Step Startup. I hope you're having a great Monday. Just a quick one. I get asked all the time about books I'm reading and recommendations. I think no day goes by without someone asking me for a different recommendation for particular reasons. And the interesting thing is, I make a point of reading different or new books every single day, but also as part of the 8-Step Startup startup group and the course, I have a lot of content that's not just from professors and business owners or business leaders, but also from best-selling authors. So I make a point of interviewing, getting in touch with people at that level as well. So I was actually asked this morning by one of my mentees if I could tell them what my top 5 books are. And that's one hell of a job. I don't know if I can actually do it, because the thing is, I have different books for different reasons, in the same way I have different mentors for different reasons, and they're all great in their own right. So what I thought I would do is put together just 5 books that I have found influential in my business life. And I suppose if you're new to startups, if you're an entrepreneur in the making and you're interested in books that can get you going, well, these aren't necessarily the best books, okay? They aren't necessarily the books I would read right now, but as a new entrepreneur or a new business owner, these are the 5 books that I would say you need to own and need to read pretty sharpish, okay? So there are reasons for each one. I'll quickly go through those. So the first one is Brad Stone's Everything Store. So this charts the actual story of and rise of Amazon with Jeff Bezos. So this, you could see this in many ways as a biography thus far of Bezos, and from zero in a garage working on I think doors for tables he used, to now being worth $34 billion himself. So the reason why this is such a crucial book isn't just that it's a prevalent theme right now, looking at things that Amazon do, but also what Brad Stone's capable of in this book is being really clear about Jeff's motivations and the kind of person he is. It's tremendously inspirational if you find yourself, which you will at times, slightly lonely, building a startup when you've got really very little around you, having that kind of belief. But the big takeaway for me was this idea of get big quick, okay? So never thinking, okay, we're making it now, we're getting there. It's moving on, next step, grow as big as you can. And I think there was a moment in here where Jeff Bezos had one of his group or inner circle come over to him and say, look, we've hit $1 million of sale, or 1 million sales, or 1 million units shifted, or whatever it was. Let's have a party. And he said, no, that's not the way I want to do things. There's going to be a lot of milestones. And he was essentially saying, no, we're going to be way bigger. We can't have a party every time there's $1 million sale. Good effort. And I like that idea of almost that kind of stoic approach of, pat yourself on the back briefly, let's get on with it, okay? It's not just big party time because we've done one milestone. So Everything Store, you have to read this. I think I read it in 2 days. It was just page turner pretty much. And that was only 2 days because it took me time to do other things. This next one, I read this pretty much when it first came out. I think it came out in 2002 in the UK. I think I read it in 2003 or 2004. So Rich Dad, Poor Dad by Robert Kiyosaki isn't necessarily, there's a lot of things I don't quite agree with in it, but it isn't necessarily the greatest finance book. However, when I was in my early 20s and I was just starting out, I was hugely in debt from university. I'd done 2 degrees. I was in London and I was starting to earn real good money. But the question I was asking myself was, what was I going to do with it? And what was happening was each month I was spending the money I was getting and not really investing it. This book at the time changed me hugely. Possibly one of the reasons why I ended up becoming an entrepreneur was the effect of this book. This was the first book that really taught me about financial literacy and the need for it. So the actual concept of an asset or a liability is really clear in this book. So reading this, I remember it so well. I read it all in one morning. I was killing it. I was up like the crack of dawn because I couldn't, I think I dipped into it the night before, but I remember reading it and writing notes, and I kept doing this. I kept reading a bit, then putting it down and just going, what have I been doing? Then reading more, going, oh, I can't believe this. What have I been doing? You know, this made me, within that year, I then was investing. I did loads of things. I got a pension. I just got different bonds. I was trying everything, and I started making my money really work for me. I would not have done that if it was this book, and goodness knows where my money would have gone if I hadn't. So for that reason, this book had to make the list in terms of most influential on my life, because at the time I really needed that, and it really resonated with what my need was. Next up is one that a few people know actually, but it's a really, really strong read. So Why Beautiful People Have More Daughters. Alan Miller sadly passed away, but Satoshi Kanazawa actually works at the London School of Economics, one of the top business schools in the world. I was actually in touch with him last year for 8-Step Startup. He gave me some really good insight. He's a really kind guy, and it's for those of you who've read books like Inheritance, which I think I've got up here. Yeah, I've got it up there. Inheritance by Sharon Molan. The likes of the other book as well. There's Contagious by Jonah Berger, and the final one I'm thinking of is, yeah, The Story of the Human Body by Dan Lieberman. God, I've got to get a sore neck looking like that. All of those books sit in the category of evolutionary psychology. However, I strongly believe that this one tops them all, because this one gives you really strong examples of essentially why humans actually behave how they do. And when it comes to business, you need to understand people more than anything. I believe more than money, and I believe more than getting a good idea or understanding business. I never had a business degree. I went out and learned it through understanding people, and this book really made a difference. Just strongly recommend you read it because you'll understand not just people in business, but you'll understand simply, it's like the instruction manual in some ways for people. It explains why people have the instincts, urges and reactions they do, and suddenly you'll find yourself being much more emotionally mature, as I call it, and this book has resonated as a result of that. So definitely read that one too, Why Beautiful People Have More Daughters. The next one is a biography. There's so many biographies, and the things, the likes of Jack Welch's The GE Way. I couldn't believe it didn't make this 5, but it's because more recently, about I think it was last year, top of last year, I got Elon Musk by Ashley Vance. When you're reading a book and then dipping into it again every couple of or 3 weeks, every 2 or 3 weeks, there must be something about it. And what this book does, and I'm probably, if you're watching this, and it's probably, you're probably the kind of person who's already read this, it's maybe a bit pointless, but if you haven't read this and you have any sense of wanting to be an entrepreneur or something, then you are really, really missing something. So you need to get on this now. This should be your next task after watching this video, is to buy this book. So basically, there's a lot of great detail, and it obviously is inspirational because it talks about how Elon Musk has come from where he did, and he's got all these great businesses and things like that. And it's very inspirational in the sense that it shows you, with intelligence, you can achieve anything. He's not a rocket science. He just went and taught himself rocket science and made a big achievement, and is making big achievement as a result of it. But the thing that really stands out for me with this book is the understanding of what a human being can really do. With the right work ethic, you can achieve outrageous things. To think that Elon Musk has built 3 billion-dollar businesses, and arguably more than that, he's had influence in, is unbelievable, because most struggle to get even $1 million business. So thinking on that, it's impressive that on occasion he worked 100-hour weeks, and that he would just sleep in his office, and he would just simply expect outrageous things to happen. Outrageous compared is relativistic relative to what average people would do. So this book gives you great perspective on what can be achieved, and every time I look at it, and this is the reason why I do, every time I look at it or read it, of course, is I come away thinking you can find another gear. stop moaning about how tired you might be or what you think you're achieving. You can do more, and that's what Elon Musk by Ashley Vance does. Okay, so you're probably wondering what number one is. That's not in any particular order. They kind of are good enough in that order, but the number one book is one I read absolutely without question at least once a week. I don't read the entire thing, but I dip in and out of it, and I read it probably 2 to 3 times in a week. There are certain passages that I read that really mean a lot to me, and it's probably for about 4 or 5 years been the most influential book in my world. So lots of books have come and gone, like the ones I've mentioned, but this one is crucial. It's not a business book, it's not a finance book, it's not a biography, it's a bit more touchy-feely than that, and it's Senecas on the Shortness of Life. If you haven't read this one, I run 4 businesses. I've had very hard time at times because I was working between 60 and 80-hour weeks in London. I wasn't seeing my family. I have a young family whilst running these businesses as well, and working mad hours to really accomplish something and essentially try your best to always realize your potential requires a certain understanding of what's called time capital. Okay, so time capital is the same as financial capital. It's the amount of resource you have in time. Most people, if you use the kind of quotes he has here, most people essentially, what he's saying, spend their money, spend their time like they spend their money. You know, they spend it like it doesn't matter so much. And in fact, he goes so far as to say that people, in fact, are more hoarding of their money than they are of their time. Time is finite. You only have so much of it, and in fact, you don't have 80 years to achieve what you want to achieve, because arguably the first few years you're quite incapable as a baby, and your latter years, of no offense to anyone who is watching this and much older, but if you're in your later years, then perhaps those drives or bodily abilities aren't quite there either. So there is a small window within your life frame when you really have to run hard and achieve things. You have to, and this guy is one of the kings of Stoicism, which is a great kind of movement I believe in, the idea of putting on current pleasure to the point where you're often really having a bit of a tough time, but it's because you know that the future can look brighter if you work harder. This book basically forces you to reassess your understanding of time. If you read it and read it properly with the right motivation, you will come away thinking about how little time you have if you are wasting it, and then suddenly you'll realize that every minute is precious, and it's not just for your business but also for your family and things like that as well. So stop spending time using time like you're immortal is essentially what he's saying. And in fact, people hoard money and are very tight with the money. They don't want to give away money, but actually that's how you should be with your time, because you don't have so much of it. Money you can always make more of, time you can't. So they're my 5 probably most influential books as in a startup world. I'm really keen to know, because I'm a big book person, I'm really keen to know what your most influential books are. Let me know, put them all in here in your comments, because if there are any I don't have, I'll be buying them to see for myself as well. But otherwise, there's a bit of a long video, but I hope that's been of interest and value. And for those of you who ask me, I may just ping you the link to this in future. But thanks a lot, and I'll speak to you soon.